of Babel. Babel? Is it Babel or Babel? Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. As men moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. And then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens so that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of the whole earth." But the Lord came down to the city and the tower that the men were building. The Lord said, "If as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this, and then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language, so they will not understand each other." So the Lord scattered them from there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it is called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. From Shem to Abram. This is the account of Shem. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Arphaxad, and after he became the father of Arphaxad, Shem lived 500 years and had other sons. When Arphaxad had lived 35 years, he became the father of Shelah, my Shelah. And after he became the father of Shelah, Arphaxad lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah had lived 30 years, he became the father of Eber. And after he became the father of Eber, Shelah lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Eber had lived 34 years, he became the father of Peleg. And after he became the father of Peleg, Eber lived for 30 years and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg had lived 30 years, he became the father of Reu. And after he became the father of Reu, Peleg lived 209 years and had other sons and daughters. When Reu had lived 32 years, he became the father of Shirag. And after he became the father of Shirag, Reu lived 207 years and had other sons and daughters. When Shirag had lived 30 years, he became the father of Nahar. And after he became the father of Nahar, Shirag lived 200 years and had other sons and daughters. When Nahar had lived 29 years, he became the father of Terah. What does that sound? And after he became the father of Terah, Nahar lived 119 years and had other sons and daughters. After Terah had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abram, Nahar, and Haran. This is the account of Terah. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahar, and Haran became the father of Lot. While his father Terah was still alive, Haran died in Ur of the Chaldeans. I'm not pronouncing any of these names right, I know that. In the land of his birth. Abram and Nahar both married. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahar's wife was Milcah. She was the daughter of Haran, the father of both Milcah and Iscah. Now Sarah was barren, and she had no children. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarah, the wife of his son Abram, and together they set out from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years, and he died in Haran. Questions: the Tower of Babel. How do you react to and feel about people who speak a different language than you? Nothing. They speak a language, they speak a language. I think they should learn to speak. That's wrong. I enjoy my diversity. I feel frustrated. I feel excluded. I honestly don't care. I mean, I don't. I enjoy diversity. It's it doesn't really matter to me. I would also say maybe yeah. I feel only I feel excluded. Only because I don't know how to speak the language. If I'm in a situation where someone is speaking Spanish to me, I do feel like I am the third wheel. But other than that, it doesn't bother me. What advantage did a common speech give humankind? Ability to pull resource, capacity of understanding spirit and obedience, control, ability to defy. Uh huh. I don't understand this question. They had said to each other, "Come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. And then they say, "Come, us build." I don't know what this is. I'll just insert pictures here later. I don't really know what this is asking me to do. Well, it seems to me that the Lord came down to the city and then he made the Tower of Babel so that people couldn't rebel because people couldn't understand each other. So I would say the capacity to understand to understand. 3. What do you think the desire to build a tower demonstrated? A desire to meet God. Because they did say that they want to build a tower to go to the heavens so that they can make a name for themselves. So I would say the desire to meet God. I wouldn't say the desire to be God. It seemed like they wanted to go to heaven. For what blinds you to your need for God? Blinds you. I would say my values just because I'm a homosexual. I know that God will never love me, no matter how much I read the Bible or how much I believe in God. I mean, right now I'm just reading the Bible. I haven't found God yet, but I just know that knowing what I know, I'm never going to be loved just because I am a homosexual. What do you do when God scatters your personal plans? I ask him why. God always has a plan for you. I believe that there's a God, and I believe that there's not a God. I don't really believe that if something goes right or if something goes wrong in my life, it's because of God. You know. But then there's another part of me that does believe, if something bad happens or something good happens, I go, it's God's plan. But in terms of the Bible, just, hypothetically, if something happened and it was all part of God's plan, I wouldn't be mad about it because, he always has reason for everything. So I would just ask him why. And then I would also choose pick up the pieces and keep going because, life goes on. I would start another plan. Ask for instructions. I don't know about I would ask for instructions because I would hate to. I don't like to follow instructions, man. I would just say I would try to understand him. I would pick up the pieces and just keep moving forward and start a new plan. How much stress do you allow to be put upon you by the vain pressures of the world? I have too much stress, to be honest with you. How do you think God feels about your desires and ambitions to build something? I would say with question 6, how much stress do you allow to be put on? I have too much stress of the weight of the world. Getting a job, getting 1 million subscribers on YouTube, making YouTube videos, learning the guitar and the piano. How do you think God feels about your desires and ambitions to build something? In terms of God being an entrepreneur, he would be very proud of me. I'm doing my own thing, building my own business, per se. But in terms of the spiritual part behind it, I do not believe that God will be proud of me because I'm not reading the Bible every day. I don't read it every day. I don't pray. I just read the Bible once, sometimes twice a week, of this challenge so far. And after I read the Bible, I don't think about it for the rest of the week. I mean, I do, little bits and pieces, but it's not something that's on my mind, 24/7. I think I don't know what he thinks because I can't talk to him. I don't want to assume. But I just think God wouldn't be very proud of who I am. But I say, on the other hand, he would be proud of me because since I am gay, I'm keeping an open mind on reading the Bible and I'm very honest about how I feel and, what I read. And two, I respect the Bible. I'm reading the Bible, I'm not making fun of it. I'm just reading the Bible out loud to myself and answering the questions. I'm being as respectful as possible. And two, in the past couple of videos, I am aware that I have sworn. I said a couple of swear words. Not at the Bible, but just, in passing, talking. And I came to the conclusion that even when I do read the Bible, even if I'm not directly talking about the Bible, but just, in passing, I shouldn't be swearing. Because when you go to church, you're not supposed to swear. And so, even though I'm not at church, I'm in the comfort of my own room, but it's the, thought of it. So I'm going to do better by not swearing a lot. Well, not swearing at all when I do read the Bible. 7. How much change has your world undergone in the last few years? Well, I moved. I moved back to Washington. I was born and raised here all of my life. And then after I graduated college, I moved to Tennessee for 2 years. And then my parents decided to move back to Washington. And I've came back here at the end of June. So I've been here for almost 1 year. It's not really that much big of a change because, I've been to Washington before. I lived in the same area before. Um, in the past, I would say I would say by the end of the month, there's gonna be some big change because I'm about to get a job. It's a long process. They keep interviewing me. They keep asking me to fill out these forms, and then right now, as of now, they want me to complete a some sort of test assessment. I have to watch these videos and answer questions about time management skills, sexual harassment, and just all the basic stuff. And then on March 18th, they have to interview me for again for whatever reason. But anyway, that's about to be a big change because they told me that once I complete the course, they they're going to talk about the next steps into me getting a job. But that's also what they always say because I had my job interview a month ago for the job, and then I guess I did good. Then I moved on to the next step, and then they asked me to fill out a form. I fill out that form, and they told me it got approved. And then they interviewed me again, and then I got approved. I did a good job, and then now they want me to do this test that's gonna take a couple weeks. It's a couple of units, and then after I do that, I have to get it done by the next interview, March 18th. And then they interview me again, and it's gonna go good. Hopefully it does. And then I don't know what goes on there, another form for me to fill out, or I don't know. I don't know why it's taken me so long. Well, it's taken them so long to get a job. You know what I mean? And I was saying the last few years, I've started self improvement. I started my self improvement journey 2021 or something around. No. Yeah. I started about the last year. before I graduated college, but I didn't really get, really deep into it until after I graduated, about a month after. And since then, I've picked up the guitar, piano, studying. I mean, not studying, but actively learning how to study Korean. I'm in the process of reading the whole Bible, so that's definitely a new thing that's added on to my list of things to do during the week. Have you dealt with the stress that comes from the confusion of change? I don't know. I wasn't confused about the change. I'll say this is about discipline. I'll change it and say discipline. When I first started self improvement, it was hard at first. Juggling all of these hobbies of I have to edit YouTube videos, and then after that I gotta play the guitar, then I gotta do piano, and then I gotta do Korean, and then I gotta finish writing my autobiography, and then now I gotta read the Bible. At first it was hard, juggling all of these hobbies or goals that I had to do. It takes a lot of discipline and it takes patience because you have to work around and play around with what days of the week are you most energized, what times of the day. And over time, I have figured out the schedule that works well for me. Like for instance, when I used to do Korean, I learned that I am most likely able to complete Korean if I do it within the first hour of me waking up. And I usually, well, now I always study Korean outside with my dogs. I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone. It doesn't feel like I am studying Korean because I'm outside petting my dogs as I'm studying Korean. So it doesn't even make me feel like I'm studying Korean. Whereas before it was I had to fit Korean into my day. It was usually the last part of my day. I would typically do YouTube first, guitar, piano, all in one day. And sometimes I wouldn't even get to Korean because it would be 8 o'clock at night. I want to eat my dinner. I want to watch TV. My brain is tired. The same thing with reading. If it's my day to read a book, I always get it done within the first hour of my day. Usually, I read outside. I just figured out ways on which hobbies work the best for me. Like for instance, when I do piano or guitar, every other day I play the guitar or the piano. I never play the guitar or the piano on the same day because it's just too much for me. I played around with my schedule. I used to do a Monday through Friday schedule where I do every single thing every day. YouTube, guitar, piano, after read, study Korean, and all this other stuff 5 days a week. Whereas now I do a little each day, every other day. I rotate in between my hobbies. And right now that's the schedule that really works for me as of now. So it's not so much as of dealing with the confusion of change, it's more of dealing with the discipline, yeah, and at times it could be stressful, especially on the days where I don't feel like doing anything because I am doing something little each day. But even then, I I input rest days into my schedule. Like for instance, every 2 weeks, I pick one hobby where I can go 3 days without doing that specific hobby. Every couple weeks, I do that. That's kind of an elongated answer of number 7. Number 8, what is the Babel confusion in your life now? How can God straighten it out? No pun intended. No pun intended. Straighten me out. What is the Babel confusion in your life right now? I would say believing in God. That it's not a confusion. I wouldn't say that I'm confused. I mean, believing in God is that me reading this whole Bible. What is going to come out of it? What will I gain? I would say that is, if you would say, my confusion in my life right now in terms of the Bible. And how can God straighten it out? No pun intended. I'm always gonna be, who I am. I can't really change my how I think. It's just, who I am. But I would ask him to understand. I know that probably he won't ever understand because just knowing what God is and based on just word of mouth and also based on my mom just because she reads the Bible a lot. She even went to church today at 4 a.m. She reads the Bible every day or every other day. And just knowing who God is, it's really hard for me to believe in him, knowing that he won't ever accept me. It's because it's hard to love something when you know that they don't love you back, you know. But I'm willing to meet in the middle of that. I am able to keep an open mind on reading the Bible as long as God understands that this is who I am. You know, I'm not a criminal. You know, I don't commit tax fraud. You know, I'm a good person. It's just that I like girls. How can this group pray for you today and in the coming week? Pray for me to get this job. I mean, I don't know why it's taking it so long. It's fill out this form. You have to wait 3 business days. And then after that, you have to fill out this form. It's crazy. But all jokes aside, how can this group pray for me today? Pray for me so I could have less confusion in terms of God. Pray for me so that I could believe in God. Right now, I'm just reading the Bible, you know. I'm not really going into it believing in God or not believing in God. You know, because you hear all of these things of people who read the Bible and it's, you know, they opened their third eye, you know. They found Jesus. They they heard him talking to him, you know. And I do need to learn the difference between God and Jesus because there's some people out there that's like, God saved me. And then some people say, Jesus saved me. You know, what's the difference? You know, I know that they're two different people. Is it a different feeling, you know, versus God saving you and Jesus saving you? And how do you know that they saved you, you know? I'm just gonna put it out there that self improvement is my religion. You know, it's I already found my purpose with self improvement. You know, I never had goals in life, and then I've this trend of self improvement and looks maxing. It's saved my life. I have to say. And so reading the Bible, it makes me seem like, you know, people say, you know, that they found their purpose. Well, I already found my purpose. You know, what else will I be looking for? Because at the end of the day, I'm always going to make YouTube videos. You know, I'm always going to play the guitar. I'm always going to try to become fluent in Korean. It's gonna take me 10 years to do it. You know, and even reading the Bible, yeah, it's gonna probably take me many years to do it. But whether or not I I find God or not, I'm still going to finish the Bible. That's just something that I'm always going to do. I'm always going to complete my goals, no matter what happens in my life. I'm not really sure how you can form that in a prayer, but I can flip it and then let's do how can I pray for you? I pray for you that whatever you're dealing with in your life that you are not confused. And two, with the Tower of Babel going up into the heavens, what is your tower of Babel? You know, what is your shortcut? You know, because you can climb up this tower and then you're in heaven, right? But it's a metaphor, you know. If you could have one shortcut, you know, what would it be, you know? It's just something to think about. Where do you want to go? You know, what is something that you've always wanted to complete, you know? With these people in Babel, they wanted to build this tower because they want to see heaven. They want to go to heaven, and they're willing to do anything, They're willing to do backbreaking work, building this tower, they're willing to do this work for themselves, They could hire someone else to do it, but they didn't. They want to do it themselves. So, what is your purpose? What is your Tower of Babel? That's the real question, you should be asking yourselves. See these questions right here? You can pause this and you can look at it yourself. So, how do you react and feel? You into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the people on the earth will be blessed through you. So Abram left as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions they had accumulated and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh at Shuram. At the time the Canaanites were in the land, the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he went on toward the hills east of Bethel and pitched his tent. With Bethel. Oh, my speech impediment's coming out. Bethel. Is that right? That doesn't sound right. Bethel. On the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. And then Abram set out and continued toward the Negev. Abram in Egypt. Now there was a famine in the land. Famine? And Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while, because the famine was severe. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarah, "I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' And then they will kill me, but will let you live. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you." When Abram came to Egypt, and I lost my place. When Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that she was a very beautiful woman. And when Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. And she was taken into his palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, men servants, and maid servants, and camels. But the Lord inflicted serious diseases on the Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarah. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. "What have you done to me?" he said. "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister, so that I could take her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." And then Pharaoh gave orders about Abram to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. Okay, so why did he say he was not his sister? That's a bit of a... I have to go back and read that, because why did Abram say that Sarah was his sister? Wouldn't it be the complete opposite? So I guess Aram told everyone she was his sister so that they wouldn't kill him. But I see, if he was his wife, they would kill him and say, she can be my, so that she could be my wife, so that they don't have to fight about it. But it could go either way, because if you say she's your sister, and you can kill him too. But I kind of get it, it's a bit of reverse psychology. You tell the king that she's your wife, and of course the king doesn't like you. So they have to kill you, because if you say you need to give up your wife, of course you can't give up your wife. So you tell the king that she's your sister. The king's not going to kill you, because you can't have sex with your sister anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that actually makes sense. Okay. Number one, what do you think was the main reason Abraham was willing to pick up and take off into the unknown? He has faith in God. God told him to go there, and he did. Yeah, I guess faith. Yeah, because the Lord said to Abram, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you." So Abram left, and Lot went with him. But also, I mean, if someone told me to leave, and then they also said that I will make you into a great nation, I will bless you, I will curse you. I mean, I will curse everyone, whoever curses you. I'm like, heck yeah, man. But even though it seems like it's an eye for an eye, doesn't mean, if someone does you bad, doesn't mean you have to do them bad. You know what I mean? Because I will bless those who will bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. You should be good to everyone. If someone curses you, just leave them alone. Just pay them no attention. But to me, it seems like God isn't the type of person to let bygones be bygones. Whereas the things that I've known about Jesus, this word of mouth, it seems to me that Jesus is a lot more forgiving towards other people. Well, more people. If you had been Sarah, how would you have felt about all this moving? Whatever you want, no. Please make no. Where God we send. I'm sick of pitching tents. I would probably say where God send us we will go, and then I would also go, I'm sick of pitching tents. Because just for me, as a standpoint, I don't like camping. I like to sleep in my own bed. But yeah, I would pick those two. How many times have you moved as an adult? Okay, we just talked about moving 20 minutes ago. I was at the house I was born at, 1515. And then I moved to Yelm. And then when I was in college, the first 2 years I lived in apartment 3. And then I moved to Tennessee 4. And then I moved back to 10. And then I moved back to Washington 5. No. And then there was 6. Because I remember when my parents were in the middle of buying the house in Yelm, we had to live in a apartment for a while. So that's 6. I have moved a total of 6 times. 6 times. 6 times. What other stressful changes has affected your home? Me being a homosexual. Me being gay has affected my relationship with both of my parents. It's not really changed because, it's not like I just woke up yesterday. It's an ongoing thing. I've always been like this. But in terms of, what's stressful, has affected my home, I would say the most stressful thing right now is that of who I am and not having a job. That's the first one. And my dogs as well. My parents, they do not like my dogs, but yet they gave me my dogs. It's complicated. Like my dog Scooby, for example, I never asked for another dog. They were out running errands last year. They're at Petco, and this couple was giving away, free puppies in front of the store, and they found Scooby. They just brought him home. They picked him out of, the 10 or 12 puppies, and then I was at home watching. I remember this day. I was at home watching The Big Bang Theory, and when they came home, they just surprised me with a new dog, and I was happy. At first I was a bit shocked, like, how am I gonna take care of this dog? And he's the best thing that has ever happened to me. And now they don't like my dog because he's messy and he's big. So, how can your faith be an anchor in change? I would say being consistent. It can help me be consistent, and it can help me get closer to God. But also, it's difficult because the most stressful thing in my life right now, well, always is me being gay. And so when I put my faith in the Bible, God doesn't like me being gay. So wherever I go, I'm not going to be accepted. Even if I, escape by reading the Bible for a while, I'm always reminded that He's never going to love me back. And then when I'm not reading the Bible, I'm always reminded that my parents are never going to accept me because of who I am. So I can't really answer that. How can your faith be an anchor in change? I can't really answer that. Why do you think God chose Abram to be the father and founder of a special people? I would say just because Abram's a good man. He's not a criminal. And then also to show His power by choosing an aging childless couple. And then I would also say God doesn't need a reason. He seems like the type of dude to do whatever he wants. Like he doesn't really need a reason. He just does things. Have you ever had an experience where you felt that God was calling to you to do something significant for Him? No. No. I have never. No. I have never had a voice in my head that said, "Do this because God is telling you." I've never experienced that before. No. But when I started my self-improvement journey by watching, YouTube videos, reading books, just over time, I've developed my purpose in life. So I guess self by doing self-improvement. But I never had a calling from God. That has never happened to me. What would you like to be living, and what would you like to be doing in 10 years from now? Where would you like to be living? I dream. Within the past year, I have been dreaming about moving to Canada. Only because of just who I am. They're more accepting over there. And in terms of me being an adult and thinking about the future, you get free healthcare. Yeah, it's a bit more expensive. The weather compared to Washington, Canada, is almost more of the same. So I don't have to do that much adjusting in terms of the weather. The weather is almost the same. I've thought about Vancouver a lot. It's only a couple hours away. And then two, the thought of living next to an active volcano scares me. Even though it has never blown up, within 1,000 years or something, it still terrifies me. I'm a hypochondriac, knowing that it will erupt one day, because as science, shows that if it erupted in the past, it will erupt again, and it's developing earthquakes, and it always has earthquakes, and it's very, very much active. It's just a matter of when, it's not if, it's a matter of when. And so I just know that when I move to Canada, I don't have to stress about, am I going to die today just because of a volcano? Knowing that that you have the possibility of dying that's not in your control scares me. Having control or having lack of control of your death scares me the most. Dying because of a catastrophic event, yeah, is that the word? Is one of the worst ways to go. It's like being stabbed to death. That's something you can't control. Whereas your health, you have control of. Maybe even if you got diagnosed with cancer, you have a time frame, or you have medicine that can help you, cure the disease. Whereas you're not in charge of when the volcano is going to erupt. And I live only an hour away from the volcano. It does scare me. But anyway, I have thought about moving to Canada, especially when both of my parents are old. What am I going to do? I've thought about how am I going to support myself? I have no job, no income. What am I going to do? I've thought about selling this house as soon as they pass away, taking the money that's left and taking whatever money that's left in their bank accounts when they pass away, selling their cars, because we have a lot of cars, and moving to Canada, maybe buy a really small house and move with my dogs, take my dogs and just leave. I thought about that. What would you like to be doing in 10 years? I would still like to be doing the same things, but getting paid for it. I would, in the next 10 years, I would really appreciate if this whole thing works out in the end. Doing YouTube. Getting paid, actually getting paid to do it and live in income. I'm not asking to be rich, I'm just asking for just a living income for me to live off of. I hope in 10 years that I find someone that loves me the way that I love them. I have that with both of my dogs, but it's just different because they're dogs. In 10 years, I also would like to make money in terms of me not having to worry about, am I going to be able to afford this or not? In 10 years, I would like to have my book published by then, or books published, more than one books. In 10 years, I would like to have the Bible completed. I think I could. I think I could do that in 10 years. At the pace that I'm going at, reading once a week, sometimes twice a week, just reading 1, 2, 3 chapters, each week. It's very much possible. Have I prayed about it? I haven't prayed about it, but I have wrote it down. I have a piece of paper taped on my door so that I could see it when I go to bed. I could see it when I, wake up. I could see it any time of the day. I have these pieces of paper taped on my door, and one of those papers, they have all of my goals down. It's kind of a bucket list of things to do. And from my memory, one of them is literally move to Canada. And then there's things on that bucket list of publishing my book, having 1 million subscribers, finding love. I haven't prayed about it, but I have wrote it down. Well, I have. It's right there on my wall, on my door. Then 7, how have you learned to hear God's call on your life? I have a devotional time regularly. I try to cultivate my talents. I seek advice from Christian family. No, I trust God for help when I'm unsure. How have you learned to hear God's call? I haven't yet. I don't know how to call on God. I don't know how I could answer this question. Definitely not seek advice from Christian family and friends. Just because of my parents. I trust God for help when I'm unsure about. I would just put I'll put the last one. Only because I will try to believe in him. I will try to put trust in him. I haven't believed in him yet. I'm just reading the Bible just to read the Bible. So I'll just put that. There's not really a good answer for any of these. The only one that I could probably say is just the last one. 8, who has gone with you on your journey of faith? No one. A family member, my spouse, Christian friends, I have gone by myself. I would say my Christian friends, I do have one friend, his name's Nathan. He's probably watching this video right now. But even then, I'm the only one reading the Bible. I'm the only one doing all this. There's some values that I don't agree with on Nathan's part. He doesn't want me to be gay, but he also acknowledges that I am gay. He says that in life we all have our struggles, and my struggle just happens to be that I'm gay, and it's up to me to work it out with God. And so I could go up to heaven, but I don't want to work out I don't want to work out the fact that I'm gay, because I don't believe it's a weakness of mine. It's just who I am. But my friend Nathan doesn't think otherwise. He accepts that I'm gay, but he knows that I'm never going to go to heaven because I am gay. And then he says that every Christian has their one struggle, and it's something that all Christians have to do, that they have to believe in God so that they could be set free. And I don't want to take that part away from me, because that's just not how it works. Nathan also believes that being gay is a choice. In some terms it is a choice, but it's not. Hypothetically, I could go out and date men, but I wouldn't be happy. Yeah, I could make my parents happy by dressing like a girl, but I would hate myself. I would probably commit suicide doing it. Yeah, I could probably already be married by now to a man, but I would be miserable. I would not be happy. I wouldn't. What's the point of living life when you're gonna live it in complete misery? There is no point. In a way, yeah, I guess you do have a choice between being happy and being sad, or you have a choice between being sent to heaven and not being sent to heaven. I don't want to be miserable at all. I don't feel comfortable putting down my friends because I don't have faith in my friend Nathan, only because of that reason, that I'm always going to be gay. I'm always going to be the person that I am. And then also there's some things that we don't agree on, like getting abortions. he agrees. He believes that no matter what the situation is, you shouldn't get an abortion. Me, I'm sort of in the middle with it. It depends on the situation. Like for instance, there's situations literally where these kids, as young as 10 years old, they get raped and they're forced to have a kid, and then maybe the kid comes out disabled or the child dies or both parties die. Literally, it's in the news. I remember watching a news video about it about I think it was about a year ago on this kid in Alabama. I mean, of course, it's Alabama. It was one. I think it was in one of these. On my studies are. I believe it was in one of these southern states, around over there, and this kid, she was like what, maybe like 10 or 12, and she got raped. She got pregnant, and she went to school being pregnant, but no one thought she was pregnant because when you're 10 or 12 years old, I guess when you're pregnant at that age, it looks a bit different. I don't know. No, none of the teachers suspected that she was pregnant until just one day, someone just caught up to it. And I actually don't know what happened. I actually don't know if she had the baby or not. But it's a very true thing. You can even look it up. She got raped at 10 or 12, and she just got pregnant. And then there's, situations where, you're 70 years old, and, you have sex, consensual sex, and you just happen to get pregnant at the age of 70, and it's like the likelihood of you dying, it's crazy. But I'm sort of in the middle, especially with these kids, if you're a teenager and you're, 18 or you're 16 in high school and then you get pregnant, but you choose not to have the baby just because you don't want to take care of it. I think that you should have the kid because you can always adopt, you can always give the kid away. But in terms of health reasons, I believe that, if you want to get rid of it and then fine. But my friend Nathan, he doesn't agree with that, just period. He doesn't care. If you're a kid, he doesn't care that the kid's gonna be disabled. He doesn't care about any of that. It's you have the baby regardless. And he also doesn't believe in adoption. But anyway, that's another thought for another time. I highly doubt he'll watch this video. That's why I'm just saying it out in the blue, because sometimes I don't feel like, especially with him, that I could really count on him, just because some of the conversations that we had before in the past about my sexuality, like he's my friend, but yet he'll say something that is really mean in terms of who I am as a person. I don't even know why I'm his friend, only because I'm 24 and he's, 16. He found me on my YouTube channel, and on social media we just text and stuff. I only text him back just to be nice, but sometimes I wonder to myself, why am I texting this person who I will most likely never see in real life, because I never even met in real life, and even with my other friends in real life, it's funny how I have to say in real life. Well, all of my friends that I have met in real life, I feel like I can't even count on them as well, because we haven't hung out in a bit of a while. And I'm on my self-improvement journey. Sometimes I feel as if that they judge me. They don't see the real me. They just judge a book by its cover. No one ever understand what's going on in my brain. Like, for instance, with my parents, they assume that since I'm in my room all day, that I do nothing but watch TV. But they don't actually come in here and see what I'm doing. Like, for instance, I'm in my room reading the Bible. I'm in my room playing the piano. I'm in my room studying Korean. I go outside and study Korean. But they don't see that I'm in my room and I'm doing something productive. They like to look at the negative. And even when I do go outside, they don't see that I'm outside studying Korean or applying for a job. They see that, oh my God, your computer is outside. You're gonna drop it, which I understand. They always care about being safety, but they always look at the negative. I have never dropped my computer, but it's the fact that even when I'm doing something good, they always try to make it into a negative of, why do you spend so much time outside with those dogs? If you want to study, just chain the dogs up and go inside and study. And I tell them that I can't right now, Mom. I'm reading the Bible right now.
Yes.
So that's why I feel like I'm on my own on this one. Even when I told them, my parents, that I told them that I'm, reading the Bible once a week, they wanted me to read the New Testament first instead of the Old Testament. They wanted me to read this chapter first, read this verse first. But I want to read it the way that I want to read it. I want to read it from page 1 to the end, whereas, oh, you have to read this chapter before this chapter, you have to bounce around. I don't want to bounce around. I want to read from beginning to end. Or it's reading once a week is not going to be enough. You have to read more. You have to read more. It's like nothing that I do is ever going to be enough for anyone. It's almost as if no one, it's almost as if, yeah, you're my friend, but you're not really my friend because you don't really support who I am. You know what I mean? The last time I talked to my friend Shine, like in person, was 4 years ago. I mean, the last time we texted was, I believe, last week. I haven't talked to my friends in person in so many years, aside from texting. So it's like almost as if, what's the point of having friends when you can't even touch them? You know what I mean? What's the point of having friends when you can't even look when you can't even look into their eyes? When it comes to your faith in God and your sense of what He has for you in the future, which response is closest to how you feel? I'm ready to pull up stakes and move out into the unknown. No. I'm confident that God has a tax for me and I just wish I could see it. Yeah. I believe that everyone is born for a reason. I believe everyone has a purpose in life. And I believe my purpose is to make the best YouTube videos that I can to help others become better. Teach others that self-improvement goes beyond masculinity. Self-improvement isn't about how to optimize testosterone. Self-improvement doesn't involve gender or sexuality. I believe that I was born to help others. I believe I was born to turn my weaknesses into strengths. I have more weaknesses and then I do strengths in real life. I don't know how to have faith for my future. I don't want to get all pumped up about any new adventures. I would just pick this one. This one's the best one. How can this group pray for me? How can this group pray for me? Pray for me that I don't have to do this faith alone. Pray for me that someone watching this will start reading the Bible with me. Pray that we will all have a companionship in this journey of faith, that maybe we don't have to do this by ourselves. Maybe we don't have to go into this alone. Maybe we can do this together as a team. So we can all pray for each other.